Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 479. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra from blazing hot Minnesota. When it's not raining, it's burning.
Burning.
By Charlie Carden.
Nanu. Welcome. I highlighting my new free piece of art in the background. My local comic shop guy gave me that. Again, we've talked about the Duke miniseries from G.I. Joe. I think Todd and I are going to talk about it on Spinner Rack at one point. It's great. And support your local comic shop. So big shout out to Roger and Crystal at Argos Bookstore here in Grand Rapids, which is also the home of the Shizor statue, which Todd will hopefully lose during our summer movie competition.
He's never going back.
Go Inside Out 2. Go Inside Out 2.
And someone who's probably very confused about this talk about Prince Shishor and movie competitions. That is our guest, Chandler Poling, founder and producer of the Uncanny Experience. And just for everyone may be familiar with that, we did a fansplaining episode all about the Uncanny Experience, this big event that's coming out. And so it's great to have Chandler back on because in about, I guess, 4 months, the Uncanny Experience will be happening. So Chandler, tell us all about the Uncanny Experience for folks that live inside the Twin Cities and outside.
Sure. Yeah. So, hi. Thank you so much for having me back. The Uncanny Experience. Wow. We call it an immersive fan convention for X-Men fans. We transform a historic building and make it Xavier Institute, where you can enroll as a mutant student. And it is a hybrid of a traditional convention, which would consist of special guests. Like we have Chris Claremont, Gail Simone, Leah Williams, and many other talent from the animated series, as well as a vendor hall, cosplay, panels, etc. But an added layer to that is this immersive experience where you get to feel like you're in the X Mansion. We've got various rooms decked out, to be like sets, and you can take photos in them or interact with them. There's all sorts of things. There's a mystery to unravel. You get a quest as well. So it's a lot of fun for a 2-day weekend, September 28th and 29th in Minneapolis.
Awesome.
And you forgot the nighttime activity.
Well, sure. So on Saturday night, you get to go to our after party in the mansion. It is a combo event of kind of dancing, fun, drinking. We got a lot of free beer and drinks for our guests. And then we have a Hellfire Club activation where people want to enroll as a new member of the Hellfire Club. We have a whole initiation ceremony hosted by Emma Frost, of course. And there's all sorts of other various activities going on Saturday night as well for the party scene.
Wow, man, that's awesome. I am otherwise engaged, or I would think about coming out. There's a Star Trek event going on in Chicago that I'll be at, but that sounds super exciting. So good deal.
I actually did talk it up, and one of Charlie's co-hosts on his Star Trek podcast, they'll be coming into town for it because they're big X-Men. And so they'll be coming. So I did my part, spread the word, and brought in 2 more people. I've already got our tickets ready. My wife is going to be coming with me at least maybe one day. So maybe 2.
How fun.
If she gets
That's
convinced,
awesome.
though.
Well, if it takes off and you do it in the future, I will do my best to come out because I think
sure. Yes. Well, we'll do it again. This is our second year, and you can go to theuncannyexperience.com if you guys want to see any sort of photos from last year. On our YouTube channel, you can see a sizzle reel of kind of what it looked like and get a taste. And we are all over social media, and we are at the Uncanny EXP.
Well, if it'll be at about the same time next year, then I will. I'll plan it. That sounds like fun. That sounds like fun. But at any rate, well, cool. Well, welcome. Excited to have you, and excited to talk about a lot of X-Men stuff. But first and foremost, we got to get some bill paying out of the way and talk a little bit about our Secret Friends Unite Patreon. If you visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, you can sample all of our shows ad free, and you can also get access to great additional content that we've been making ever since we started our Patreon. It's now been a year and a half. So there's a year and a half worth of great content on there, including a show called Spinner Rack that Todd and I do together, where we break down a comic arc. I do a fun show called The Facts of Geek Life, where myself and a guest take a classic series in a season of that series and break down a handful of episodes and have a really rocking good time. So at our Friends with Benefits level, that would be John Sedorf, the fantastic Phoenix Sisters Entertainment. That'd be my friend and your friend Kelly Gentner and her partner Crayley. Brendan Myers, Corey HD, and Matthew Keel. At the BFF level, our top tier folks, the awesome Nias family, there in the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry, and Missy Merchant. So again, thank you to all of you for your awesome support. And for the rest of you, please again visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite for a free 7-day trial. Listen to a couple of shows. And if you like what you hear, Todd, what do we always say?
Come back.
Yes, we say come back. No, we say in the classic Arnold Schwarzenegger parlance from Predator, where he throws the knife into that bad guy, stick around. We would love to have you stay.
All right. Is that the other one from Commando? Let off some steam?
When he throws the pipe, he throws the pipe through Matrix, who's the villain. Hey, come on. No, but it's Bennett. He's Matrix. And
yes,
he says,
Bennett,
let off some steam, Bennett. All right. Well, we're not letting some steam off in this week's cover from July of 1975, Todd, just before you were born. The Invincible Iron Man issue number 79. And I promised you guys a quip. We have Murder at Midnight Mountain, which of course takes me right back to that 70s classic by, I think her name is Maria Muldaur, Midnight at the Oasis. Todd, hum me a couple of bars.
Nope.
Midnight at the Oasis. I usually end up having to do my own song, Chandler.
If I knew the song, I would sing along with you.
Yes. Nobody knows that song, Charlie. That's okay.
Anyway, so yes, we have here, if I might continue my character assassination of this fine title, we have Iron Man in a what do you call that? Is that a sleeper hold, choker hold? He's getting choked.
That's the sleeper hold, yeah.
Yeah, he's getting sleeper holded by a big dude who says, "You interfered, hero." I guess that's a generic if you don't know the name of the person you were fighting. Hey, you, hey guy, hey hero, and thus you must die, and dies in red letters. There is a blonde woman in a bikini chained to the back wall. Seems a little kinky, but I'm not going to kink shame. And that totally looks like Agatha Harkness working a control panel behind them. And she or he, I'm not sure if it's man or woman or whatever, crush him Quasar. Okay, now I have questions because that's not Quasar. Quasar is an Avenger with the Negabands and also that great fair hair. Mm-hmm. Let Iron Man become the final victim of Dr. You're going to have to help me out here.
Kararkill.
Okay.
Yes.
And all right. So with that, Todd, you said there would be questions, but you also said that your breakdown would generate questions and answers. So
I will give you answers. So yes. So the title is, of course, Midnight on Murder Mountain, which is great and all. It's fantastic. Sure. The fun part, though, is I'll just read the quick synopsis. On his way to Stark International, Iron Man rescues Keith, Carrie, and Zero when a tree struck by lightning lands on their van. He calls Pepper to delay his meeting and rents a car as Tony Stark to drive the people to a motel. All are full except the Murder Mountain Lodge.
My
Perfect.
God!
Why isn't it sold out? I don't know. The title had got
it pays to be a platinum member with Hilton, like I am. That's all I'm saying, because they always have rooms just for those people. Terrible.
Those were the hotels that my dad would rent because we were, basically he would drive until he would fall asleep on the way to Minnesota or somewhere. It's
before he would fall.
Yes, we would drive there, and my dad would pick the cheapest, worst hotel in the world, and that's where we would.
Oh, God!
Mom would get mad.
Yeah, that's what when I used to let you pick the hotel when we went to Chicago, and I don't let you do that anymore for that exact reason.
But Quasar actually is an evolved ape, as I look at him. That's what it says.
I agree.
And this must have been before Quasar, the other character, was introduced. You just use the name. So that's all I'm going to say. So at this point, I'm sure hijinks ensued, and that was it. So based on this cover and what I told you, Chandler, what do you think?
Absolutely reading it because I want to know about this motel on Murder Mountain. This sounds like a perfect setup for a cheesy horror movie, and I just want to see what happens. The cover doesn't sell it, but the synopsis did.
Yes.
Right. Todd, we were talking this week about the bankrupt Canon studios in the 80s and all the low budget horror movies they made. This could have totally been one. Would have been great.
This was probably but the Iron Man movie we would have gotten in the 80s, by the way.
Oh, you're
Probably.
right. Yeah.
Probably.
Just like the Spider-Man movie we didn't get. Oh, but anyway, speaking of things related to spiders, and I know it might be a little bit still a bit of a sore spot because of a certain film that came out earlier this year. But it is time, of course, to tune in with our senior news correspondent at 124 almost and a half years young, Madam Webb, down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, bringing us all the hottest news scoops. So let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, Madam Webb. I know anytime we bring in a new guest, you're always interested in selling them in your MLM. And her MLM, Chandler, just for your purposes, are support hose with lots of funky designs. Because she's 124, she captures that senior audience. So she may be reaching out to you in a venture to sell support hose to all your friends and neighbors. So just
I love it.
On the watch out.
Okay, sounds good.
I mean, I think support hose could very easily be worked into any kind of X-Men related cosplay. Just because everybody wears spandex. Yeah.
Right. Well, so, we call it shapewear in the cosplay community. It's called shapewear. And so basically I wear support hose in the sense of shapewear if I cosplay.
Yeah, I'm a big cosplayer myself. I simply have my collection of jackets back there, but the rest of the stuff is elsewhere. Todd wouldn't cosplay if you pointed a gun at his head.
I will be wearing a costume for the Uncanny Experience, an original character.
Yes.
Oh God!
I don't.
Get ready.
It will debut, and it will be not hot and sweaty. It will also be easy to manage.
I get the feeling that it will, at the end of it, there's a chance you could be underwhelmed. But you know what? I could be wrong.
Hey, I'm not. That's why I'm saying I will be doing it. I'm not telling anybody about it. So, yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Well, looking forward to it. So is this your first cosplay experience then?
It would be, and I like the cosplay. That's kind of like original creations and things like that. So it's like you see somebody's like, I'm Iron Man, but I happen to wear like samurai armor, or like they've does a Bowie. So I like those type of like weird mashups. So I like the goofy side of cosplay when people like, oh, I get it, it's a joke. So I'm more of that.
Awesome.
I think Todd would look great in like a Lego Wolverine. So like get him the big cardboard and it'd be like a Lego figure. That I could see.
That could work. That could work too.
But I think that would be very hot. Yeah,
I got enough Amazon boxes to really make that.
Oh my gosh, you're right. You could,
especially I'd be brown Wolverine, so I don't have to actually color the cardboard.
Nailed it. And just get a
better suit too. By the way, better between the brown and tan over yellow.
Yellow highlighter.
We were just talking about that. Right. I think it's a generational thing because tan Wolverine really was the 80s. I guess 80s with like Frank Miller. But then when Jim Lee brought it back, everybody got yellow and blue again. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It just wiped it out. So, and like Aaron, who we were talking about, he's more of a 90s kid, or he's big into the cartoon, where Todd and I are 80s kids because we read those comics. So anyway, all right. Well, speaking of old people, who are older than us, thank God, we are talking about Mr. Paul Giamatti, who is apparently Hollywood's it girl this week, because he's not only coming along and joining a TV series. This sounds great. Todd, have you seen the Hostel films? That's Hostel, Hostel, not hostile like my ex-wife. Hostel.
No, I've never seen the Hostel films, and I do know that's where Eli Roth really got his foot on the world of horror. I know the torture porn era kind of started with Hostel, so I'm like, I don't know if I really want to see that.
It was
as a TV series.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, it started, the first one came out in 2006. Cause I remember, a coworker at the time mentioned this to me and really oversold it. Oh my God. It was like softcore porn plus horror. I finally watched the first film. April and I watched it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it was comparatively, especially where the series went, cause they made several other films from there and they just get
2 others.
More, Oh, okay. I thought, 2 others, so a total of 3. They just get more and more graphic. Like I know in the last one, there's a little literal castration in it. Like they can't.
Okay, don't need it. Don't need it.
Yep, don't
need it.
But yeah, this is being developed by blah 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 blah. Who's making this one, Todd?
Good question. I'm looking for the studio that would be behind this. It's the studio behind Apple TV's Plus's Severance, so that's a good sign.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on Apple TV Plus.
I'm scrolling. Yeah, I am scrolling, and that is not coming out. Usually that's at least at the bottom, and I don't see it. So it's I guess that makes it TBD. I feel like this is one I usually don't jump right out and say, "Oh, this is something I definitely avoid." I feel like this is something I would definitely avoid.
Me too.
Again, Paul Giamatti is super talented. I'm the only one who's seen the films, it sounds like, so we'll kind of leave it at that. I don't know if he's going to end up saving it. But one thing that doesn't need saving.
I wanted to say, at least before we leave this part of the story, is Eli Roth only directed the first two, didn't direct the third. Okay. Eli Roth's coming back for this. And the fact that you could tell. The fact that Paul Giamatti would want to be involved in this, he was just nominated for an Oscar. He's not going to do something horribly bad like that last that one Saw movie with Chris Rock. That was absolutely garbage in a can.
That I did not see. And your perspective helped me not see it.
And I think just because this is a TV show, I think we're going to probably see a different take on Hostel, where maybe Paul Giamatti is maybe a reporter hearing about these places and maybe trying to investigate them or something, or find out what's going on. He could be the big bad suit who is enjoying a Hostel. I don't know. I think there could be a way to make this into a series versus a 2-hour shock film.
He could be Mr. Hostile.
So Chandler may not feel that way, though. He
Well, yes, I mainly just because the horror genre and me do not go well. Okay. I am a literal child, and I stopped going to see horror movies in movie theaters because I'd waste my money because I'd just be watching my hands
that was
the whole time.
That was Todd, certainly, when we started. Todd was like, I won't go see the horror movie. I'll pee myself. Now, Todd, as time gone by, Todd's desensitized a bit. He sees more horror movies.
I like them, but they still scare the crap out of me. So I don't know. I'm just
why do people like this feeling? I don't understand why people want to feel scared, because it's not a good feeling.
Right.
But they go for it.
It's all training, Chandler. So when you get in one of these situations, you know what not to do and what to do.
Yes. Well, and on that note, Scream is the only horror franchise I watch, because it is a self-aware horror franchise that knows all about horror films. All they talk about is the tropes of it. And
Jamie Kennedy did that until they finally killed him off. So this would be fun. So obviously this is in such formative stages that we don't even know where we would find it, and therefore didn't know where it's being made. But yes, you're right. Paul Giamatti lending his cachet to something like this obviously doesn't probably mean that it's very run-of-the-mill torture porn, as you said. But moving on, Paul Giamatti has added his cachet to something that already sounds great, because it's already got a star that we talked about a few weeks ago. Holly Hunter is heading up the new Star Trek show, Starfleet Academy, which is going to be set after Star Trek Discovery, which we had some words about last week. Todd, you've not watched any more Discovery? So
not yet. I will knock it out when I get back on my treadmill.
I hear you. But, the setting of Starfleet Academy is, we found out in the distant future from the timeline that we're the most used to in the Star Trek The Next Generation, there was a universal catastrophe. The Federation kind of fell apart, and Earth was no longer part of the Federation. So Starfleet Academy went away because Starfleet itself went off to somewhere else in the galaxy. This series deals with the Starfleet Academy traditional campus in San Francisco on Earth reopening, with Holly Hunter heading things up. Paul Giamatti is joining the cast as the villain. My goodness. Now, does the villain, Todd, if I know my 80s college movies at all, shouldn't he be the villainous dean? Because she's the dean. Yeah. So who's he going to be?
That's a good question. Yeah. I want him to be the dean that tries to take down the frat house or the bad kids that he can shake his, and they pull pranks on him. But yeah. So Chandler, are you into Trek at all? Have you been following it?
I'm not a Trek person. I've never seen the show. It's too intimidating to me because it's so vast. I've seen episodes, and of course I know what the difference between Next Generation and the original cast and all that sort of stuff is. But I will say I really gave it a good shot. because I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go watch to the very beginning and watch. And it was so unwatchable. And everyone talks about how those early Captain Pike episodes just don't quite land where.
Okay. You talking about the old show like Captain Kirk?
I'm talking about the ones before Kirk. There's these episodes before Kirk.
Oh, so you are talking Captain Pike and Strange New Worlds. Really didn't like it, huh?
I couldn't. I don't know. I just wasn't. It wasn't landing with
show.
Me. No, all the way back.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because Enterprise was it Enterprise? Was that the old show?
I don't know. Whenever I was Googling and I went on the streamer, I just said go to episode 1 and it started playing that.
Okay, yeah, because Strange New Worlds, which was I guess which stars Captain Pike, it's Anson Mount, is a universally loved show, but
it's really good.
Everybody says that's the one to start on because you don't need to know a bunch of stuff that you could just enjoy it. But I will say on that note, I in my job I work in publicity and I am promoting the songwriters of the musical episode of The Strange New Worlds.
Really cool.
They wrote all the songs and they're eligible for Emmy consideration. So voting is happening right now. So if you're listening for your consideration, we are one from Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's funny because Todd and I, while I'm the biggest Trekker that you'll ever meet in your whole wide world, I mean, I do a whole show and everything. The musical episode, both Todd's a very big Trekker in his own right. We didn't necessarily dig the musical episode, but that didn't mean that it wasn't well produced. And like Celia Rose Gooding, who is Uhura, who did the majority of that, probably sang the song that you're talking about, is absolutely spectacular. So I would I
loved.
For my consideration,
it was a great idea to have a Star Trek musical, and it was really cool. So so Charlie, you may want to see if they want to do some publicity and come on your show and talk about.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Why not?
In person here.
We'll have to talk offline. How exciting! But,
yeah, for sure.
But anyway, Starfleet Academy is looking to, I believe, start filming this summer, which to my eyes would mean we would see it potentially first quarter of 2026 or the very end of 2025. So that really excites me. So stay tuned. Obviously, this is something that we will also address over on Code 47 in depth, and then we also tend to talk about it here. So you get Star Trek from two sides.
Actually, I have one last idea on this, Charlie. Paul Giamatti being a villain makes me think of Community when there's the other Community college that they battle with. So maybe there's a Community College Starfleet Academy also.
Ooh, there was the other academy was the Federation Naval Service back in the day. So like the Coast Guard, basically a Coast Guard. So yeah, there could be the Federation Coast Guard versus Starfleet Academy. Oh, they get into wacky hijinks. I mean, it's going to be a YA show, so you probably want something like that. So, or maybe he's somebody's like rich dick dad, though of course there's not money in the 21st century. Anyway, the permutations are endless. Let's move on. Todd, what's next?
Okay, so we've always talked about Scooby-Doo being an evergreen property. It's always changing, live action, animation, the really awesome crossover between Supernatural and Scooby-Doo, which I love to pieces. And
I don't know. No, I must have seen that because that was an episode.
I think the term is Scooby-Natural. I think is what they call the episode or something like that. It's phenomenal.
And if I can break in very quickly, we just this week recorded my partner Jonathan Snedeker and I over on the Patreon on the Facts Geek Life. We've now covered both seasons of the 1969 original Scooby-Doo Where Are You? The series. So we had a fun time talking about that. So again, something you can listen to on our Patreon when you sample it for 7 days. End of commercial.
Yes, thank you. So because of that, we're getting another version of Scooby-Doo coming to Cartoon Network called Go-Go Mystery Machine. It's an anime-inspired series that will have the gang heading to Japan. While visiting Japan on the ultimate foodie adventure, Shaggy and Scooby do unwittingly unleash hundreds of mischievous mystical monsters that are now causing trouble all over the country. The image they give is it's like one of those little Japanese trucks. They're kind of fun. There's there's one of the Japanese smiling dogs with them, a couple of new friends, and a bunch of anime Japanese themed like demons or ghosts. This is going to be okay. Scooby-Doo turns to his uncle Daisuke-Doo, magical friend Atsuko, and gadget whiz Toshiro. So this is going to be great. I'm excited. I love it.
It looks fun and goofy. You know, it's not my scene, but I do enjoy Scooby-Doo. And Todd, you and I read, again, on Patreon for Spinnerack, we read that Scooby-Doo and the Apocalypse thing, and that was
great.
Blast. Yeah. So, you know what? Different versions of Scooby-Doo, bring it on. Because how can you have a, property that's pushing 60 years old and just keep doing the same old thing? You know, it turns into the conundrum of Star Wars with people bitching about the snake eating its own tail. Got to do different stuff. That's my take.
Yeah. So Chandler, Scooby-Doo, is that something you grew up with as a kid? Have any interest in?
Very aware of it, but never caught my, fandom. I appreciate all it is, all the hijinks it is, but never caught my fandom to the point of where I would be excited for any new Scooby-Doo property.
Todd, will we see this on Max? I would assume because it's
I'll go from Cartoon Network to Max. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Max.
I always
Mask.
Yes, that's what's next. Mask. But the cool part is I always love the fact that James Gunn really came into mainstream because he made the first 2 live action Scooby-Doo films, and a lot of people forget that. So,
right? Yeah.
Got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Next story. Until Dawn gets its cast. So this is video game adjacent, but not about a video game. This is a movie based on a video game that is essentially kids go up to a kind of like a ski resort that
Murder Mountain.
It's probably on Murder Mountain. This is probably the murder mansion or the murder chalet. I don't know. I'll call it something. And this was famous because it had a lot of actors who they performed, did the motion capture for it. And at the time, they weren't as well known. One of them is Rami Malek is in this.
Oh, wow.
In the video game, and Hayden Panettiere. And they're great in it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But this is a video game where essentially your goal is just to see if you can get as many of the kids to survive the night as possible.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I thought you said if you could get them killed. I'm like, that sounds like more fun.
I was really good at getting them killed, unfortunately. I tripped over something instead of jumping over it. Right. It's got a lot of those great clip scenes where you're coming up and you have to really quickly push an X or a B, and if you don't, you fall, and you have to hold your breath while the enemy's going past you. If you don't do it at the right time, they'll hear you. So this team, Supermassive Games, they've made some really awesome games, and the fact that Sony owns this. And it makes sense. It's a perfect game to turn into a movie because horror films do really well. Chandler is very excited about this. He's going to be there day one. And yes.
No. Are you also not a video? Oh, it's a horror, but are you not a video game guy? Because I'm not a video game guy.
I'm a video game person for sure. But horror games are also very scary. They're actually even more scary because you're in control of
right. So you're getting murdered. They're stabbing me in the chest. I don't like this.
Yes. Yeah. The anxiety is very high.
You have to be. Unfortunately, you make the decision, so you're the dumb one. That I chose to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I ran up the stairs. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And tripped over. So yes. So like I said, if Todd has his way, he'll get them all killed. So that's fun. So Todd, who's producing this?
It's Sony. It's through their Screen Gems, basically publishing arm that does a lot of their horror films like Tarot and things like that. So yeah,
gotcha. So this is a film, not a TV series.
It's a film, probably out next fall. I'm assuming horror time.
Oh, next fall. Yeah. It's in the can. But I would assume that we don't have. Oh, this doesn't really talk about a cast or anything like that. So we didn't get
we didn't talk about the cast. I could say the cast. I should probably say that whole thing. Ella Rubin will be in this. She was in The Idea of You. Ji Young Yu was in Expats. Odessa Azion sitting in bars with cake, and Michael Cimino love Victor. So a lot of unknowns, which is good.
That's good.
David Sandberg is directing this. He's done a few other horror films. This could work really well for them.
Good deal. How cool. All right. And take us home. Good. Is this about Criminal Minds? I don't watch those shows.
No. So this one is that essentially they are going to be adapting that Criminal, the comic series by Ed Brubaker, is going to be made into a series by Amazon. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips created this comic quite a few years ago, and it does arcs. and it's a comic I've always wanted to read. I just never have. So I will definitely be reading this.
I've read it.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Break it down. What's the Reader's Digest version of the comic?
Well, it's different. So there's like the comic is called Criminal, but it's kind of anthology. So there's various blocks of stories, and it's just true crime, essentially, detective gumshoe, murder solving kind of stuff. But it's just done in a pulp fiction-y kind of way that's really entertaining. And I can't tell you one plot because it's all just it's awesome stuff that I read a long time ago, but I do remember it being fantastic. The style was great. The Sean Baker art was awesome. So yeah, I loved it.
Fun. Good deal. And the beauty of anything that's on Amazon Prime is you've already got it.
Well, yeah. And I just realized I have all those comics, so maybe they're going to shoot up in value because there's a show coming out.
Hey, yeah.
I gotta go my box diving to find them.
It's possible. And it sounds like this is an ongoing series because there's another volume coming out in August.
There's 5 volumes already, yeah, and then there's they've got another different series called Houses on the Holy by the same duo, but they're doing another series.
House of the Holy, like Led Zeppelin,
Unholy. So yeah, it's a little different.
Unholy.
But the big news is Charlie Hunnam is cast in this, and I can't say I think he was he was in the biker
wasn't
series,
the
right?
biker one, the Sons of Anarchy. That was
the one. And he was awesome in that movie. Guy Ritchie movie, The Gentleman, which is now a series. Actually, he was amazing in that movie. I love that. Yeah,
he's a great actor.
Yeah, he's like the less more. I guess what's the best way to put this? That sounds nice. More easy to understand than what's the other actor who played Bane?
Tom Hardy.
Yeah. He's like I can actually understand him versus Tom Hardy, which essentially I don't know if he just likes to have strange accents, but we'll see. But they always remind me of each other. But there we go.
Southern accents, very exciting.
So that's coming out soon. I assume probably next year in 2025 as well. So Amazon's really bringing it strong, especially with comic book properties. I mean, The Boys, and we also have. I'm blanking. Invincible is another one they've done. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
not to mention Fallout, which is not comics, of course, but still geek property.
Right.
Adaptations.
Well, they sell all the comic books, so it's easier for them. It's easier for them to read them.
Kindle. R.I.P. Comicsology.
Man.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I really did prefer, but you know what? Who really cares what I prefer? But regardless, hey, that is the end of the news. Todd, time for me to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. We've got to get ourselves down to the Geek Easy in Scugtown, Nastyville. Here comes that car now. We're going to pop on in there. The guy turns on the radio, and then I'm hearing this advertisement.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are getting our nerd on. So, Chandler, what are you reading or watching these days?
Ooh, well, let's see. So much. I consume so much media. So I'm going to start by saying I just recently finished Fallout. But what I started watching that it was kind of slipped into under the radar at the end of April was Deadboy Detectives.
Oh, good.
Todd,
I watched like three
Todd,
of those.
Yes.
Todd, that's a record for you.
It's fantastic. I just think it's so campy and so fun, and it gives me that, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, supernatural Scooby Gang kind of vibe, and so I love Deadboy Detectives 100%. So, and of course RuPaul's Drag Race, because that's just a must.
I always hear about that show. I think you've watched the local host Jason Matheson. He does the morning show and he does the Fox show. He always talks about that show, and I'm like, I only know about it through him. It's insanely fun, and don't be afraid of it. Just go in and watch it. Attitude. I don't know if I can take that much attitude.
They end up on like Paramount Plus, right? So like I'll see the spots.
Yeah, I think so, right? It used to be Bravo, then it went from somewhere, and now it's Paramount Plus.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of Paramount Plus and I don't like Paramount Plus has the All Stars seasons, and then I can't remember where
it's like Yellowstone. There's Yellowstone's on Paramount Plus, and then some on the Paramount Network, which is not a real thing.
Right. Yeah, right. And I can't remember the original series or the real series. It's on VH1, I think, and so there's no
it was VH1, wasn't it?
Go back to Paramount
VH1.
Plus,
right? Still right.
Yeah, I know, and I think that has the regular seasons. Anyway, so it's really fun to watch, though. I highly encourage it, listeners. If you want to check it out, check it out.
That would be fun. I like that. So, all right, Todd, what about you, buddy?
The boys. The boys are back in town.
Yes.
Amazon.
Oh, yes. Of course. I started that. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Season 4.
Then we'll definitely keep it spoiler free. Now, when you say you started it, Chandler, you started the show altogether or the new season?
The new season.
Okay.
Then started the first episode, I should say.
Got it. So I've watched all 3. Amazon dropped 3 this week. There'll be weekly drops after that, which is cool. I don't mind that as long as we do then get a little bit more of a breathing room, because when 8 drop at once, like Fallout, I was like, I'm like, oh God, I got to watch so much before I get spoiled or something like that.
Netflix is clobbering us on July 1 with the drop of 20 episodes of the animated Star Trek Prodigy, which on my show, we're still going to break it down 2 episodes at a time, which is great. That gives us content for the rest of the year. We love it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So The Boys season 4, and they just announced season 5 will be their last season. So, which I think is the best thing for it. If they know where they're going, they can wrap it up.
It's not like Lost. Remember how Lost got really
I was
lost?
Just talking about that. I know, right?
Yeah, so lost. Yeah, I was like, and that show and many others fell within the writer strikes. They were like, we're trying to keep it going, but now we don't.
And there were 22 episode seasons, so then it's like we're gonna have 85 filler episodes. It's
my God,
I know, just a waste of time.
We're watching we're now into the 3rd season of 24, which is a show that I love from Fox years ago. My wife has never seen most of it. The first half of the 3rd season is complete garbage. The last half of it, because in that show it was always an A story for 12 episodes, and a B story for 12 episodes. The B story is good, but man, we're just trying to get through that A story. It's tough. But anyway.
Yeah. So actually I listened to an interview with I'm trying to remember this, Eric Kripke. He is the showrunner. He was the showrunner for Supernatural, and he is doing this. Great guy, and it was a great interview, because I normally don't always listen to interviews with creators because sometimes I get off. But he was great because he was talking about he says, and my intention is every episode to see how far and unhinged we can make Homelander. He says, but there's got to be an endpoint to it, because it's like it just can't get like he's that much closer. He's that much closer. Yeah. It's like the doomsday clock. I mean, eventually it has to hit midnight, and
eventually, or it ticks backwards and forwards. And he had a few moments in this, and we were April and I were talking about this. They get a little bit further down the gross out train as they go, because we get a version of Multiple Man in this, which is that
all it'll say is Human Centipede. Sorry, unless they spoiled it for somebody. Yeah. Did I spoil that? Oh, sorry.
Well, Chandler hasn't seen it, so yeah. But it actually, the same character kind of gets worse, sort of. But we're just gonna leave it.
Yeah.
But
it's the season is fun. I won't give anything else away. I think there's one part of it that I'm enjoying. That I think will bring out some benefits as we're having it. But there's one scene that you'll know it when you see it that has just made me laugh my butt off. I will never think of a certain PG-rated activity the same ever again. Yes, that's all I got to say. But great, it's back. I think we're getting 8 episodes again. Pace yourself, have fun with it, and by all means, don't let the kids watch.
And that's a Friday drop right over there on Prime.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, because we blast through those 3. No, it must be Wednesday or Thursday because we've already seen them all, and it's Sunday that we're recording this. But anyway, all right. So Todd, you've not gone to see Inside Out 2 yet, have you?
No, I want to though.
Okay, gotcha. Well, even if I was to spoil it, which I won't do. Chandler, are you a fan of the Pixar films? You have little kids running around.
I don't have kids, but I love Pixar films.
Okay, very good. Well, this is what's exciting about this one is that it's doing incredibly well. Friday's box office return was 62 million domestic, which placed it as the second highest animated opening of all time, behind The Incredibles 2, which was about 5 years ago, as I understand it. I didn't see the numbers from last night. Todd, this is in our summer movie wager. Is this your number one, or is it Despicable Me?
I had Despicable Me 1, and I had Inside Out 2. And then I think Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine 3?
I think that, and I read a headline that says that that movie is going to blow everything out of the water, but we shall see. We still have over a month until that comes along. But at any rate, this movie was a blast, and it was, I won't call it a tear jerker, but I have kids. I didn't raise a teenage girl, which our girl Riley is her name. It hits the teenage landmark, and so we have new emotions that get into the mix. And if you've seen the trailers, we have anxiety as the lead emotion, voiced by Maya Hawke. Then we also get embarrassment, ennui, which is a great expression you never hear anymore, which simply means boredom. It's the French. And then the fourth one is envy, which is just a little goblin and stuff. And then we have our existing emotions led by Amy Poehler as joy, and then it's disgust, fear, which is Tony Hale. I listened to Tony Hale on a podcast this week and just remembered how much I loved him.
I replaced Bill Hader, which I thought was funny.
And he did. Oh, did he?
Yeah, okay. Bill Hader was fear in the first film. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know. And then the last one is Rage, which is Louis Black, and Louis Black is the king. Absolutely adore him. The film turns into and it's the thing. The battle on the outside is Riley going to hockey camp, which is her passion, and meeting new kids, and then obviously returning characters from the previous films. And then the battle on the inside between the new emotions and the old emotions, and it's wonderful. I went to a pretty full theater, and a pretty full theater in this day and age, when you have theaters that are about half the size because they have recliners in them, and there's not as many rows. Seeing a full theater is, to me, pretty rare in this day and age.
Agreed.
because my wife and I, we belong to the movie club at the local theater because we love going to the movies and talking about movies, and so we very, very often will sit in a pretty empty theater, which is fine. But it did my heart well to see a pretty full theater and to see a movie that was genuinely entertaining and had a great message about emotions in general, and puberty, which is the predominant kind of watershed event of this film, really kicking things off. So I love it. So I would say go see it. Both of you guys go see it, enjoy it, and as always, would love to hear your thoughts, but I will say no more so that you can go enjoy it. And then not similarly, I did actually get back to reading Amazing Spider-Man, which I do about 2 or 3 times a year. I'm like, I got to catch up, because as I've said time and again, Amazing Spider-Man is the only comic for which I have read every issue since it came out in 1962. I've had long breaks where I'm just reading it through on Marvel Unlimited. So they have a new, as always happens we've got a new super duper crossover thing going on. But this one's it's a little bit more down to earth so far. There was a gang war arc back in the 80s when I was first reading Amazing Spider-Man that was not very fantastical. It was only really centered around Spidey facing, the Magia or some other like
Tombstone.
No, this was actually just before Tombstone.
Oh,
the original ones. But it was the Hobgoblin and the Rose, which the Rose was Kingpin's son, and it was kind of focused around that. Now, this is kind of a big explosion where Tombstone's a major character, but Tombstone also has a grown daughter who's the female Beetle, which is an armored character. Robbie Robertson's son, the two of them were the female Beetle and Robert Robertson's son were getting married, and the wedding was attacked. That happened in a previous episode, and the son is in a coma, and so there's drama going on, and Tombstone was injured, so the daughter took over, but Spidey is rolling with a gang that includes She-Hulk, Elektra as Daredevil, Miles Morales, and one other character I'm drawing a blank. Probably another Spider-Woman of some kind. And they're just kicking it off. But again, it's a big crossover. Todd, you and I are very much of the thought process that, you know what, big crossovers, skip them. Skip all the ancillary bits because, very famously, there was the War of the Reigns, which was a Thor crossover that about 5 years ago, my wife said, we're going to buy them all. And you buy like 50 issues of something and none of it makes any sense. So stick to the main stuff. Plus, now that we have Marvel Unlimited and as they're pushing more stuff to the front, because like Todd and I are going to talk about the new Marvel Ultimate on an upcoming episode of Spinner Rack. This was another one of those. They're like, oh, we rushed the first, like they'll make them available sooner because they want to whet your appetite to getting.
I like that.
But yeah, I'm enjoying the title. John Romita Jr. is back flying with the art, which I love. Drawing a blank on the artist. I don't think it's Dan Slott, though Dan Slott has been doing Spider-Man.
Oh, you mean the writer?
Yeah, the writer. So I was trying to figure out who is doing the writing right now. So I'm drawing a blank. I don't have it in front of me, so I apologize. But anyway, Amazing Spider-Man, like any long-writing comic title, is going to have its ebbs and flows. But I'm enjoying this arc so far. So I would recommend it. And of course, you can find it on Marvel Unlimited or, of course, in your local comic shop if you're a local comic shop guy.
Yeah, I was going to ask Chandler really quick. So I know X-Men is your baby. I know you and your other members of the Uncanny Experience do X-Men podcasts.
Yes.
So one thing people always ask, what is a good X-Men book to read right now with Krakoa ending, some of the books coming up?
Right,
Any opinions or thoughts on that?
Well, currently there's not a lot to read. So there's only there's the X-Men 97 series, which is great. People are really enjoying it. If you like the animated series that was just on Disney Plus, you can watch or you can read the precursor books by Steve Fox, who's a great writer. So those are currently happening. I think they're on episode 3 or 4.
Okay.
But right now there is a tie-over story called The Heir to Apocalypse, and it's just starting as of this week. So I haven't even read this week's issue yet, so I don't quite know how it's going to land. It's also written by Steve Fox, ironically, so I guess he is just in charge of this bridge event before Jed McKay and Eve Ewing and Gail Simone take over.
I'm looking for the Gail Simone book. It feels like the most 90s version, which I'm very excited about.
Yes, her short story that was in the Free Comic Book Day Blood Hunt issue was fantastic, so that gave me a lot of hope that I'm looking forward to Gail Simone's stories for Uncanny X-Men.
That's awesome.
Just to chime back in, Gang War also featuring on Spidey's side Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, Luke Cage, and our villains are we got a great bevy. Madam Mask, who beats Hammerhead into almost to death. Black Mariah, who was Alfie Woodard's character from the Luke Cage Netflix.
Oh, that's right.
Mr. Negative, who is a character.
That's not me. I'm not Mr. Negative.
he's Mr. But yeah, when I look at this crossover list, you can also get more of the story and, Gang War First Strike, issues of Spider-Woman, Luke Cage Gang War, Miles Morales, his main title, and blah, blah. So it's just like, stick with the main bit, and it still doesn't tell me who's writing it. This is driving me nuts. I feel bad. But anyway, go and check it out. And yeah, it is now the first half of Gang War became available on Marvel Limited actually back in February. So probably the bulk of it is there now. So you can go check it out. That's all I got. So that takes us out of the Geek Easy. Time for the main event. Todd, gotta get out that Air Qantas app. Get us a flight to the land down under where Hologram Tina and the mutants await for us to talk about X2.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And this week, we are continuing the Summer of X. We're doing a countdown to Wolverine and Deadpool. So we're checking out the majority of movies that are dealing with Wolverine and Deadpool. And we started with X-Men last week. We had a blast. And we're so glad to have Chandler talk about X2, X-Men United. Came out May 2nd, 2003. A very much similar creative team as the first film. And the plot line is when anti-mutant Colonel William Stryker kidnaps Professor X and attacks his school, the X-Men must ally with their arch enemy Magneto to stop him. This is available across the board. Disney Plus. You can buy it. You can rent it on Amazon, other places as well. Or you could buy it if you want to off of Amazon.
Right.
The budget was 25, made 407 million. And we were joined by, the same cast and crew as last time, but the new members of the crew was Brian Cox, William Stryker. This is
Mr. Succession.
Yes, this is the first William Stryker you'll see. You'll get a different William Stryker later on. Alan Cumming as Wolverine, playing Kurt Wagner.
First as you said, Alan Cumming as Wolverine. I think you meant Nightcrawler.
Oh yes, Nightcrawler. Sorry, Kurt Wagner. Yep.
This is his first and only appearance in the role, but the character does come back in the McAvoy films. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And then Aaron Stanford as Pyro. We did get a Pyro. I think they never named him as Pyro in the first film, but this version, Aaron Stanford playing John Allardyce as Pyro. He's a new addition. Sean Ashmore, the Ashmore brothers, playing Bobby Drake. Kelly Hu playing Lady Deathstrike, essentially. Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yuriko Ayama. The name of that. Then we get a different Kitty Pryde again. Katie Stewart.
You're right. So it's like they did that in Star Trek Deep Space Nine with Gul Dukat's daughter. There were 3 actors. It was 1, 2, and then they finally settled on one that was ongoing. So, which is exactly what they did here because Ellen Page at the time becomes Kitty Pryde in more than one film.
Yes. And then Kia Wong playing Jubilation Lee, which I believe, once again, different Jubilee than the first film.
Right.
Yep.
And again, it was an insignificant role. Like, she's like, I'm running to the bathroom or something. It was like, that was all you saw. They did that.
The one person they don't show or credit in my notes is Colossus.
Yes.
Daniel Cudmore.
Yeah. So it's interesting in this list from, I think I got this from IMDb. So shame on you, IMDb, because I had a speaking line.
Lines.
Yes, he had lines. Kitty Pryde didn't even speak. So
Chiari Zani, the White House tour guide, gets a
right. I know.
She had a whole speech. It was absolutely great.
Well, shout out to Daniel Cudmore, by the way, who was a guest at our first Uncanny Experience.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. So just kind of a great appearance in the movie too. So it was like,
doing his thing. I will remark that talk about return on investment. The budget of the first film was $75 million, and it was very successful. This really kicked it up a notch. Growing it by like 400%. And I remember seeing this. I was living in Detroit at the time. Todd, were you overseas when this came out, or were you back?
2000. Let's see. If this came out in May, I would have just been coming back from Saudi Arabia.
Oh so my God.
Yeah, that was a good time.
I remember seeing it. I was probably on my own at that time. This might have been one I saw several times. And again, it was filmed in Vancouver as so much battle. This was right before BSG came out because the actor who played Chief Tyrrell was one of the army guys in the base who got blown up by all the grenades in that scene. So, yeah. And then you see a lot of other people. It's funny because I'm watching BSG right now because my partner Peter and I are doing that on the Facts Geek Life. We're breaking the whole series down, and there are a lot of like, hey, it's that guy. Hey, it's that dude. It was the guy who Magneto uses to get out of the prison was one of the key characters on Battlestar.
Wow.
One of the key background characters. Yeah, he was the LSO, Captain Kelly.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah. Cool. And then Chandler, yourself, where were you when you first saw X-Men 2?
I was in college, and I definitely saw it in the movie theater. Saw it probably multiple times in the theater. Definitely was it to me. This is the best of any that they've ever done. So
for sure.
I was all about this one.
Yeah, this movie considering the first one was kind of like nobody knew if that was going to work, and it did, obviously. But still rough around the edges, some things that just didn't work. Some of the dialogue was a little crunkly. Some of the characters, like Toad and Sabretooth, were a little bit underwrought, very much cartoonish. You got this one, though, where I felt like they already did the heavy lifting of introducing the X-Men to the world.
Story rolling, right.
So they could really just build upon the characters, do more with it, even focus on the school a bit more, and build on those relationships and delve more into the past of Wolverine. Right. And then you had carryover pieces with like Senator Kelly, with basically where we left Mystique. That was there. And then
not really Senator Kelly.
Yes.
And one of the most important things, got rid of Storm's ridiculous accent. You like that?
I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice
really?
In the first film. Really. Yeah.
The first movie, she had a fake accent.
Yeah, it was bad. That was something, because I think I don't think April watched this one, because I watched this yesterday, but when I watched the first one, April and I watched together last week, and she said, that accent is blowing my mind. Yeah. Because it was turning it off and on like a faucet. Yeah. It was bad. What
was that one character I always hate, Charlie, that like she started with an accent and just disappeared by the end? I can't remember which character it was.
In what show? You don't remember?
I can't remember, but there was somebody like that too. It's like, okay, she just loses her accent over time, but never mind. I hate that too. It's like,
Yes,
exactly. So this film is really the main focus of it is it's all about the rising anti-mutant hysteria. Once again, the president is kind of put on edge from different forces on what he wants to do. And all of a sudden, William Stryker comes on the scene and basically says, "Oh, I'll take care of this problem," and decides to use a substance to control multiple mutants. And we essentially then get the fact that they need to take out the mutants, and we get one of the best sequences. Well, let's start this way. You get one of the coolest sequences, which is essentially Nightcrawler coming in. You see him use his powers so fantastically to essentially kill the president.
An attempted assassination. And you know what, that missed opportunity, because obviously it would have broken the suspense, is that very famously in the comic, it's always said that when Nightcrawler jumps from place to place, there's a whiff of brimstone. So you don't see anybody while he's jumping around going, "Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God."
Light a match.
Yeah, right. Come on, open a window. Give me a break.
We have a gas leak in here? Yeah.
But yeah, that was absolutely incredible. Yeah, he gets all the way to the end, and he's got the president pinned on the desk, and he pulls out the knife that he's manipulating with his tail, and then the one Secret Service guy, tags him in the arm, and he jumps away. So
and that kind of leads everything to then the president essentially in action to then move things forward. Stryker, as you'll find out, had controlled Nightcrawler with using the substance. He's also doing the same with Lady Deathstrike, who you find out later. And it's a really good startup. And then you also see the same thing is happening to Magneto, which then leads us down the path of, which I thought was funny, because when they show the school and they have like the satellites and like, here's the mansion and there's a plane underneath it. What do they use it for? Right. No one knows. So
probably flying, but we don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So at this point, I think we're building some momentum. Wolverine is back, obviously, with after he's kind of dealt with some demons, because at the end of the first movie, he was given direction to go to Lake Alkali?
It's the Alkali Lake. Alkali Lake,
yeah, to basically investigate. Nothing was there. Wolverine comes back, and you kind of feel like, well, maybe he's going to just finally settle down, chill out, be part of the faculty, and it's kind of like he gets to be the dad, like, "Oh, you're dating now?" and very cute. Relationship things there. And
he's having ice cream with Bobby and Iceman, and they're chit-chatting. So it's like, it's like cool Uncle Logan or whatever, I guess, even though he's a little dangerous.
One of my first notes, though, is that Logan likes, obviously, Jean. But when I look over and I see Halle Berry as Storm coming,
I know,
like,
bro. Seriously.
Dude, come on.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like Famke Johnson isn't a pretty lady, but really Halle Berry, one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood in the last 30 years. Come on, bro. That's quite weird.
Especially because he knows Jean's taken, so it's like, there's Storm's not She's not seeing anybody.
Well, yeah, you expect her to say at some point, "What am I, chopped liver?" Though she doesn't really demonstrate any interest in him. And though as this film goes on, Jean's like very like, "Oh, the bad boy, the good boy." It's very like,
she knows what she's doing.
It's very cliched, but yes,
Jean knows what she's doing.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very
one of those things.
Someone who can read minds. Yes, exactly.
It's one of those things where I feel like they went into the comic book story, but it didn't execute in the live action that well.
Yeah,
you know, because I also felt like it reduced Cyclops to just a jealous boyfriend character for movies and movies and movies, and you're like, can you just give him something else to do than be jealous boyfriend? Like,
very.
I love Cyclops. I think he's a great character, and he was very underserved in the X movies.
There's really nothing else that he does in any of these films, even when they reboot him or soft reboot him or however you want to look at the McAvoy films, where he does anything but be like, I'm gonna let's remember Dark Phoenix, I'll fucking kill you, you get close to Jean. You know, it's just like where he tries to be a tough guy. Just not really.
They do something within the next film, basically put him aside.
He gets killed off. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yes.
And Todd, you're right. He does finally correct his eyewear issue, which was a big problem in the last movie because he didn't carry a spare. And in this, he got his regular,
when he's undercover in the first film, he's wearing the baseball cap, but he's still got like the huge, hardware on.
He doesn't have his hard case with his backup glasses, which working in the optical industry, as I did, when they're not on your face, they got to be in the case. Not smart.
Well, yeah, I feel like one of my favorite things, which we're getting to in the storyline, is the raid on the mansion, which I think that is one of the best sequences ever. And especially as an X-Men fan, you get all the Easter eggs of all the kids, Colossus and Kitty and everything that we've talked about, Siren, whatever, you name it. It just was so fun to watch that sequence and how Wolverine deals with it. And it's just, I don't know, it's incredible. I love that.
It's your first real chance to see Logan off the chain, because again, the action in the first film was somewhat muted. I wouldn't say it was necessarily neutered, but with this, you get, this is what this is Weapon X level disaster wrecking shop. Because the first soldier that wanders into the kitchen that he struggles with, and the guy stabs him, and then Wolverine pulls the claws and he pushes the guy against the fridge and just. And then it's game on. And then he goes full, again, Fox and Jack Bauer, 24. Same time he goes full Jack Bauer. He's stabbing guys in the feet. He's leaping off the balcony and just people around. Oh, he's ripping shit up, and it's the hotness.
Yes.
I mean, and the only thing I wish we would have seen more is more of the students maybe use their powers, because we did get Colossus, who you see him at first, who's this big dude, and like, and he puts on the armor, which is fantastic, and you see him tossing guy through, and he's like, I can stick around and help. He goes, save the kids. So I'm like, oh darn, they must have ran out of budget.
Never seen
no budget.
Exactly. Even though their budget was, like I said, probably $50K more than it was in the first film, they spent it in other places, that's fine. And like, to your point, Chandler, all the Easter eggs. Well, hey, there's Siren, there's Kitty Pryde, who's the kid? And we see him again in the first film as well, who never sleeps and changes the TV channel with his buddy.
I don't know. Actually, I could probably maybe look it up on IMDb, but I feel like I don't know. He doesn't come across as a recognizable mutant to me.
No, that's not Cypher or Forge or any of those
I
got a sideline power where I'm not going to be in the battlefield, but I can fix your phone. You know what I mean? Those,
because it seems like that would have been an easy fix to say, like, let's put a character in there that but even that, it was just like,
because there aren't any real significant original characters in these first couple of films that I'm aware of. No. They're all really adapted up.
Yeah. Well, and you get Easter egg like Artie Madrox,
that's right.
Who he's just a kid with a weird tongue in the movie, but obviously it's like they
Wolverine rescues at the end. He's carrying him away.
Yeah, because Artie could just make thought balloons come alive. Is that what his
power? He basically made psychic projections. Is what he did. Is he spoke through psychic projections? But whatever, they can adapt it in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I think one of the things, I'm trying to remember where this came into the chain of events, because Magneto essentially was being taking control of getting the information. so that's how they ended up with the X Mansion. All this stuff happened. One of the coolest parts I liked was Bobby finally got involved and put up the ice barrier, which is love that.
Right.
Thought it was awesome. And
but
you know, quite honestly,
then they run off to his family's house and things get really messy.
Oh my God! Yes,
I've known
his
about
family
that too.
sucks.
Yes,
I saw that. Yeah, so he's a younger brother, Ronnie, who is a fucking narc. He calls the cops on a very pleasant conversation that Bobby's parents, and then the group that escapes it's Logan plus Rogue, and then Bobby and Pyro. And they're having a somewhat spirited conversation about mutant stuff, and Ronnie wanders off, and as Todd noted, he's in his very early 2000s bedroom with his itty tiny computer, and he calls on his cordless phone, these guys are in a house and they won't let us leave. And so you get the Boston police show up at a house in Vancouver, which looks very Canadian-like. And
it doesn't go very well. Yeah, it doesn't go very well.
I have to say that, of course, this scene in Bobby's house is a huge allegory to, the queer community. We are in Pride Month, and so this whole scene is Bobby coming out to his parents as a mutant, and the parents taking it very poorly and just saying, have you ever tried not being a mutant? And, and obviously, Brian.
Yes, I tried. It didn't work out. Damn it. I know. So hard.
These movies really spelled that out, I think, for people.
Yeah.
Especially people like myself in the queer community, we really identified and locked in with the X-Men because of this. Like they literally just spelled it out in a superhero way of what it's like, and that scene, and then there's some others, especially with Mystique. She's one of the best with one-liners,
right? As
far as what she gets to later in the movie, but it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
and I do have a quick question. When did X-Men ever become woke? I mean, is this new?
It's like Star Trek.
I love that.
Star Trek becomes so woke. 1966? Yeah, exactly.
Right, I know.
X-Men 1963. But yeah, speaking of Mystique, so, we move forward in the film where we get to the team-up portion. Where,
we've got to talk about this battle sequence that occurs.
Oh, yes, excuse me, yeah.
Yep.
Wolverine does, it's shown in here that taking a normal bullet to the head by this nervous cop who caps him instead of talking to him will last for about 30 seconds, and then the bullet will go boop and pop out of his head, and he's fine. Mm-hmm. But we do obviously learn in the X-Men Origins film that if he gets shot in the head with an adamantium bullet, it won't kill him, but it will scramble his brain. But just getting shot by a normal bullet, it's good. It'd be like if one of us stubbed our toe. We'd be like, oh, this sucks, but I can still walk.
Yeah. Right. So I thought one of the cool parts was because typically in these movies, Rogue didn't get to really do anything like offensive with her abilities. And I feel like this was really awesome because we got to see her use Pyro's abilities essentially, which I thought was pretty cool, and explode the vehicles, which was great. And then, Pyro did it, and then she brought the fire down, which was a really cool way to manage that.
She had to grab. She was on the deck, but she grabbed his leg and overpowered him, and then was able to. Don't forget that when she, in the same part when they're in Boston, she has her big smooch with Bobby, then just blows some cold breath. So they find their. So I don't know what it's like when they, when they finally actually hook up and it's no close time. What's that? I don't know how long that's going to last.
It's not going to go well. It's not going to go well.
I have to clock the early 2000s fashion though, because of course Pyro is wearing those Adidas track pants with sliders, and I was like, this was the look, and no wonder why he's not wearing socks, because it's
right. Oh my goodness. All right, so Todd, if I might, then they escape. And they reconnect with Nightcrawler and Jean and Storm. They're all together on the X-Jet. But now it's Todd. Now it's time for the Air Force to screw things up.
That's right.
Two jets show up. They end up shooting them down, but Magneto catches their plane because he's in the forest. He's conveniently in the forest.
I have a question, by the way. Yeah. So this flight that's going on, I noticed they cut to this woman who's flying, and she's pointing down as if they have to lower their altitude. And it says distinctly that her name is Captain Raygun McLeod.
I had a thought about that as well. But I'll let Todd answer your question.
This is such a specific thing that you can read it perfectly in her frame. I took a photo of it, and I was like, "Who is Captain Raygun? Is it McLay?
And I will simply note that the Raygun call sign shows up in Battlestar Galactica which came out right after this, because one of the planes that they end up using, because Battlestar Galactica is a museum ship, there were a bunch of old planes on there. One of them had a nameplate of a pilot named Raygun. So I thought, that's from BSG, which filmed
I found
around
it.
the same time. Yeah, in the same area.
Okay, here we go.
What is it?
Yeah, Ray Raygun Lai is a professional comic book artist and movie concept artist. He worked on both the Battlestar Galactica miniseries, a series illustrated, as well as the X-Men 2 film as a
I can't believe it.
graphic designer.
I can't. That's why Raygun. It was the plane that Starbuck flew in that.
Interesting.
Miniseries.
But the captain in this was, that was interesting. Yeah, it was cool.
Well,
cool catch. I saw that too, and I'm like, didn't even note it. Yeah.
I love Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So my other Easter egg, because we've already passed the scene, so I just got to rewind a little bit, is that there's a scene where Mystique has to infiltrate Stryker's office, and so she disguises herself, and she goes into the computer, and I took screenshots, or I should say I took photos on my phone of all the mutant names that they have listed that we could have had in these movies.
Do it. Many,
including Lila Cheney, but they did a typo on Polaris's name. They called her Lorne Dane instead of Lorna.
Lorna, yeah.
So in X-Men movie universe, we have a male Polaris. I'm just saying.
Really?
This is fact.
Nice.
I didn't even think to look at the screen and like take a shot as well. Yeah.
I was aware, because with IMDb it's all listed there, but there are a dozen or a couple dozen great cross outs there. Yeah.
There's so many. So some of the mutants are on this like deep cut mutants. They have Sally Blevins, who is Skids. They've got Angelo Espinosa, who is Skin from Generation X.
Oh, very nice.
You know, they've got all sorts of course, big level characters like Remy LeBeau, Jamie Madrox, and they have Kevin McTaggart, who's Proteus.
Oh, wow.
Danny Moonstar. Like, they have so many cool names listed in this. But Lila Cheney made me super excited because I was like, wow, nobody would make a movie with Lila Cheney in it. But, you know.
God.
Yeah, Easter eggs are the best, and Star Trek Lower Decks is great like that, and Todd and I have gone back and forth, but that's the animated adult style Star Trek show that's on right now that's full with a lot of Easter eggs that they're a little bit more front and center, and you can kind of pass them by, but for people like me, it's really satisfying, but it can also just be done in kind of a fun way. But there are also ones like we visited this collector ship, and there's all little bits and pieces behind it. You're like, oh, that's from a such and such. So Chandler, I'm 100% with you. Easter eggs are where it's at.
Right. It just gives us such good eats. We eat so well when there's Easter eggs.
That's how you feed the fans. That's how you feed the fans. That's all we want. Yep.
So I was going to say, just a segue between the second act before we get to the third act, Mystique is just this. I can't quite figure her out. She's totally into Logan. She's trying to seduce him by also turning into Brian Cox at one point. I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
She's like, seen Brian Cox. He's quite the sexy man with the Caesar cut. And
you can either have me as Halle Berry, which he with Logan because he's in his tent. It's a good thing they had camping gear, I guess, also on the X-Jet before it touched down.
Apparently.
But he has his smooch with Jean, as again, she's kind of playing both sides of it. Then he's just trying to sleep it off after probably, taking care of business. Sorry, he's only human. Sorry. You know what I'm saying. But then, Mystique sneaks in as Jean, and then he's making out with her, but then he kind of brushes his hand past the scars that he gave her in the last film when he stabbed her. And then she turns into Rogue, and then she ends up turning into Brian Cox, talking him through, but he still throws her out. One thing we didn't cover, because Mystique, she also, to how Magneto got rescued was kind of a unique thing as well.
Yes, we missed this.
Yeah, we missed that.
One of the best.
So, absolutely. So Mystique essentially finds out who the guard is that's in charge of giving his meals, seduces him, knocks him out, and then she injects something. At first, I didn't know what it was, and then we cut forward to him delivering the meal, and then I'm guessing Magneto could kind of tell that he had metal in his body. So I'm like, this is the first time we've really seen a Magneto control someone, kill somebody. But I always thought maybe in the comic there's enough iron in the human blood normally that he could do a little bit of control.
Yeah, I remember that was when we were kids, my brother pointed out, like, think about Meg, because I always had my Marvel Universe guides, and I bet if I pulled that black and white off the shelf, it probably. I'll go look when we're done here, because I'm curious. But I'm pretty sure that's an established bit with Magneto. But this was more dramatic because then he pulled the little metal balls out of him, and he could manipulate the metal to make a walkway so he could get away from his plastic prison. As Todd mentioned in the last episode, powered by plastic power.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No metal, just
rubber bands and plastic.
Yeah, gerbil on a rubber band. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so that was a neat part because it was cool to see something Magneto use that as a great way to get out of prison, and that's how they ended up connecting again. So, and then we're at the main part of the film where they are going into Alkali Lake, because actually that's where there's a secret compartment where everything's being done to save Professor X.
Yeah.
And one of the big parts we find out is how is Brian Cox controlling everything? Well,
Blue goo.
We find out his son has the ability to essentially control mutants because he is a mutant. That's his power, and they're basically extracting something from him.
Brain fluid, I think, is what it is.
Oh, that's right, because he had the thing attached.
Yeah, and he had the scar on like the side of his head.
And everybody has a very convenient little circular skin tag that you can dip the little blue goo in, like it's like a petri dish. They go bloop. Now I can control you.
Yeah. Well, and this is of course Jason Wingard, Mastermind.
Right.
They call him Jason, and they don't. But Mastermind, cannot control people. He only can, make illusions, which makes perfect sense with Xavier because he was just, projecting this illusion with Xavier. But as far as the brain fluid drop on the back of the neck control, that was interesting. That was a stretch as far as
it was different.
Wingard's.
Yeah, and essentially it's just, Stryker was angry that his son was a mutant. Professor Xavier wanted to help the son, but it obviously didn't go according to plan. And now
couldn't cure him. Yeah,
which I don't know if Jason originally was mute and like that, or everything that he's done to him has turned him into that basically mute person. But that's kind of how Professor Xavier is going to be used to essentially do a reverse Cerebro. And all humans
isn't that a move in the game Uno? Don't you get a reverse Cerebro as well?
Yeah, that's exactly.
I drew a reverse Cerebro. Kill all humans.
Yep. And my question to that though, if all the humans get killed, who will deliver our Amazon gifts?
Robots.
All the drones.
Yeah, exactly. Until those decide to rise up and kill all mutants, and then it'll just be birds. Oh boy!
So it was a little bit of both. It was mutants, kill all the mutants, and then kill all the humans. So it was never a good thing here. So we've seen it both sides. So there were some cool battle scenes. I mean, we got the great battle between Wolverine, Lady Deathstrike. Wolverine kind of revisited his past, and we saw some of that as well with a lot of the flashbacks he had. So any other thoughts about like the final battle?
I did absolutely love that. I guess too much is too much when it comes to the silver goo, because Mystique was able to shoot it into Captain Kelly's butt so that he could be manipulated. Well, no, that wasn't the antimantium. I'm sorry. I mixed up my silver goo, because that's how Lady Deathstrike gets killed. Because if you put the glue gun with the adamantium in it in its little pool, if you shoot it directly into somebody's bloodstream, that'll kill them. But if you do this elaborate process, which we see in the X-Men Origins Wolverine thing, where they bonded it to his bones, that's going to be okay.
It's electroplating.
What's the happy medium with injecting somebody with the dangerous metal? I don't know. It depends.
Well, too much is too much. It just comes through your eyeballs then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then it was funny when he does finally kill her and she falls into the tank and she hits the ground, you hear a clank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always love that. But no, super cool battle. And she has antimantium terrible fingernails. So she's somewhere between Wolverine and Sabretooth, who just had, gross fingernails, which again, Ryan Reynolds is the original.
He needed a manicure.
Ryan Reynolds as the original Deadpool in that film had a lot of fun talking about that. So but that was awesome. But the final big showdown, that was the biggest one, but then everybody's escaping, and of course the dam is going to collapse and the base is being destroyed. So everybody gets to the the plane, and except for Wolverine stops and takes a moment to menace Kelly, who got overpowered by Magneto, and he gets choked and blah blah.
You mean Stryker?
Yeah, Stryker. Yeah, Magneto and Stryker after Wolverine, and then Magneto shows up and finally chokes him and kills him. But Todd, everybody's back on the plane. What happens then? They're not going to make it because the plane won't kick over.
Okay. Chandler, do you want to take this part?
Okay. Oh, wow. The stakes are high. Yeah, they can't start the plane for some reason. It's not starting. Hurry, Scott. You got to start it. The water's coming. And
Jean it's out of warranty.
It's out of warranty, exactly. And Jean, she just has a moment, and she's like, I got to do what I got to do. I have the power, because we've been seeing her eyes flare up with fire all movie as she gets more powerful and more powerful. I hate this part of the story, by the way. And so she decides that she's going to take it on her own. She's going to go out the back of the plane, and she's going to stop the water, lift the plane, get everybody to safety, and sacrifice herself. And of course, she does this by possessing the power of the Phoenix, which is not said aloud, but we know that as X-Men fans, as she gets more fire enraged upon her. And then we think that she has passed away. We find out more in X3, of course, but the water caves in around her, the plane is free, and they are able to escape thanks to her sacrifice. And then we get a big cry out scene between Wolverine and Cyclops.
They got to hug it out, but they're crying. And then we end up in we go to Washington, and there's more crying it out with the president. And yes. So a truce,
the president, he's about to go on national television and be like, yo, this Xavier almost killed us all with a machine. These people are dangerous. Right. But then Xavier decides to freeze his entire cabinet and intimidate him by saying, hey, you don't want to mess with us because we're here to stay. And I thought it was so intimidating to be like, not only did I just try to kill all of you humans, but now I'm going to come into your house and freeze all of your people and tell you, actually, you can't do anything about it because we are here.
Actually, we're here. We're here to stay.
So, I do have one question. Did Jean really have to leave the plane to do what she did? Could she have done it from inside the plane?
I think the answer is yes. Because movie, but
because the script said so. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There was nothing she did. But maybe if she was doing that, it would have torn the plane apart. If she was inside of it,
I feel like
the outside. Maybe that's the in-universe explanation.
Her telekinesis, I think, at this stage seems to be all force-driven from her center, and so she's forcing one direction for the water and forcing the plane with the other. So if she's inside, I think she would just push the plane out and push the ceiling out, so to speak. She doesn't seem to be able to control a mass while she's, the center of it.
It's a Volkswagen Cabriolet of a plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Now she's never flown in the films either, right? So she can't elevate herself and levitate herself and then bring it up. So okay, I'll give it a pass. Then I was just thinking
they logically sewn it out. So and then that's the movie. So we're then left with life goes on, and here comes the sequel. So all right, so Todd, I'm trying to remember, did we do ratings last time? Like one out of...
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. I think I gave the first one an 8.5 or something like that. So yeah.
So I'll go. Yeah, Ted, you go ahead, and we'll then I'll go and we'll let Chandler take us home. So Todd, where did this rate for you out of 10?
So this is probably my second favorite X-Men films series. So this is my second favorite. So I'm giving this one a 9.5. It's great. There's not much I can say that was horrible or bad. I do think also points for the ladies' haircuts, the pixie cut and the Rachel for Storm. And then Storm was rocking an old lady business suit. So hey,
right. Oh yes, she's country and she's rock and roll. I love it.
It set the bar very high, and unfortunately, when whatever must come up must come down.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, you see how it all works out for her in the last film she's in. I'm right there with you at 9.5. Any grievances I have about that are just normal movie stuff, like, oh, well, it's blah, blah, blah. But yeah, solid character beats, nice character development. You get a little bit more insight into what's going on with Wolverine, but it's a slower burn, and there's more to come. So there's more to be excited about. So this film was deserving of every bit of success it had. So yeah, 9.5 for me. Chandler.
Yes, well, as I said at the top of the show, this is my favorite of all the X-Men films, so I give it a 10 out of 10 just because they can't get any better. I imagine some people might argue that Days of Future Past might be their favorite. I don't know, Todd, if that is your number one. Yeah,
that is my number one. Yeah.
And I like Days of Future Past a lot because they had, it was much later. They had way more budget. They had, they were dealing with a lot better stakes. So I feel like for what they had at the time and being so early in the superhero genre in 2003 that I just thought this movie was fantastic. And I just think it's great.
They nailed it.
What can I say? Except that it's so disappointing. Yeah, when you go into X3 and you're like, this is the best. It's going to be amazing. And then you're like, what did I just watch?
And then X-Men Origins. And then it's like,
yeah.
Oh,
yes, I know.
Are we screwed?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was, what enters into the true black period in the X-Men film starts next week when we
It's like every two films are good and every two films are bad. It's like
It's an extension of the even odd, which is what people say about.
So we're due a good one.
Yeah,
we're due another good film.
I think Deadpool Wolverine is going to be good. I have a feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and then when we finally get the new X-Men
MCU X-Men, yeah, exactly.
I know. I saw that they have the screenwriter, of course. So at least we know a story is being written.
A story is being written. That's a big thing. All right. Well, folks, that's the show. Good stuff. Chandler, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks so much for having me.
This was a blast. You're welcome back anytime and every time. We would love to add you to the stable, as it were. Where do people find you out there in the world?
Oh, well, I'm on many different platforms. If you want to find me personally, you can find me on Instagram at never5get. That's never the number 5get, so don't 5get it. If you want to listen to my podcast, I have an X-Men podcast called X Reads and X-Men Experience. You can follow us across all social platforms at the letter X, READS podcast. And if you want to learn more about the Uncanny Experience, our immersive X-Men fan convention, you can go find us on social media at the Uncanny EXP.
Good deal. And Todd, as always, where do people find you?
Yes, at Teoxtra, at Secret Friends Unite on Threads, Instagram as well. They repeat. And then at the Twitters, as it still remains, at Teoxtra, at Secret Friends U, in our Discord, on our webpage for all things Secret Friends Unite. Check us out and join the fun.
Nice. I'm many of those same things, but on Threads and Instagram, I am the C3, TheCeeThree, which are my initials, that you'll find me at most things. But mostly I'm largely kicking around over at our Secret Friends Unite Discord. And also kind of a new project that April and I have going on for Star Trek fans in Michigan. It's just a totally fun Discord club called the United Trekkers of Michigan. Even if you're not Michigan-based and you love Star Trek, hey, I'm flexible. But find us there on Discord. We're easy to find. All we do is talk about Star Trek. There's nothing else going on about it. But yeah, otherwise you can find me right here, which you will when we're back, because we're wrapping up. Thank you again, folks, for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.